Welcome to the voice of St. Anthony Parish from Allston, Massachusetts, right here on WROL 950 AM 100.3 FM. And you can also hear us at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. And we are here every single Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Then the program drops at your favorite podcast platform, which you can find through CatholicAudiomedia.com. They are listed there. And if not, that's some of them. And if not, you can find it in any one of the ones listed there, and also at CatholicAudiomedia.com. Well, we have we're looking through questions that you can find on the Catholicism Forum on Reddit. I don't recommend using the forum. There are some good things that may pop up, but many of the people who respond are not qualified to respond, or they are giving responses that some of them may actually do it as trolls. So you want to be careful of what response you have. So I don't actually recommend it, because there are certain things I've seen on there. I go on there and I'll give the answer of what I believe is best in the situation. But many of the people will come with this very black and white understanding of the faith. And so I don't believe they are qualified. And they aren't qualified to make that statement, actually, some of these statements. So that's why I don't really recommend the forum. But to be honest with you, some of the questions are, some of them are very good. Others actually shouldn't be there. There are people that share information on that forum, even though it's anonymous, that they really shouldn't be sharing in any public forum. It's not that it's evil or bad. It's just, certain things that you'd want to share with the proper person. So, for example, there's certain things you don't share publicly that you would share with your doctor. Well, it's that kind of thing. There are certain things I just want to say, you really have no business putting this on this forum, because, again, people may answer incorrectly. But that said, here is a good question, and going by the question itself, how do you all believe in hell? A great question. Comes from someone in the forum here. And because that's a legitimate thing to say, and that comes up a lot, how can God want to cast someone into hell or allow someone to go to hell knowing how horrible a place hell is? And if you want to have an understanding of how horrible a place hell is, look at everything that Jesus went through so that people would not go to hell. You understand? That's really one of the key things. How horrible is hell? Look what Jesus went through to ensure that people would not. But hell would also represent people's perfect freedom to reject God. And I think the number of people who reject God is not as high as some people believe, and maybe not as low as other people would believe. So what is it? How is it that people go to hell? Well, we understand from the church that people who go to hell are people who are obstinate in their rejecting of God's grace. There are a lot of people who will believe that God is ready to cast people into hell, and they will believe that for some of the most minor infractions, people are going to hell. That's not what the Catholic Church teaches. It doesn't teach that at all. And there are other people who believe that God created certain people specifically to go to heaven and the rest specifically to go to hell. We don't teach that either. So who are the people who would go to hell? Well, put it this way. It's people who objectively and obstinately reject God's grace. Objectively and obstinately reject God's grace. More obstinate than anything else. In other words, it would be kind of like Jesus saying, all you have to do to get to heaven is walk through this door. And these people would say, well, I'm not going to walk through the door. And there you go. I mean, that's the definition of who goes to hell. And he could entice them 1,000 times. No, trust me, you don't want to go the other way. And they just absolutely refuse. So think of it that way. So who goes to hell? People who choose basically to go to hell. That's what the church teaches, by being obstinate in their rejection of God's grace. And again, the model that I can give is exactly that. Jesus says, if you go through this door, you will find eternal life in heaven. And the people will say obstinately, I never want to walk through that door. Well, what can you do? So this is an important consideration. God's mercy is there in extreme proportions, even, that people may go to heaven, and those who go to hell literally choose to reject God's grace, his mercy, and as easy as that. If you want to go to heaven, just walk through this door. I don't want to walk through this door, therefore, well, then there's nothing more I can do. That's really the true understanding of heaven and hell, and understanding that God doesn't cast anyone into hell, but people specifically choose not to go to heaven. And that is the result. So keep that in mind. That's a real good question, and that's the answer that I'm giving. Are you looking for guidance on how to live a purposeful and transformed life? Look no further than Romans 12, a chapter in the New Testament that offers practical wisdom for believers. Romans 12 begins with a powerful call to offer our bodies as living sacrifices to God, urging us to renew our minds and align them with His will. This chapter highlights the importance of humility, using our gifts for the benefit of others, and exercising genuine love. It teaches us to be diligent in serving the Lord, rejoicing in hope, persevering in tribulation, and being devoted to prayer. But it doesn't stop there. Romans 12 also teaches us to live in harmony with others, extending kindness and hospitality even to our enemies. It urges us to overcome evil with good and leave vengeance to God. So if you're seeking guidance on how to live a life of love, humility, and service, dive into Romans 12. Let its practical wisdom transform your life. Romans 12, a chapter that offers a roadmap to living a purposeful and transformed Christian life. Available now in the New Testament. Get your copy today. We're back, and we're looking at questions that have come up in the Catholicism forum on Reddit. Again, I don't really recommend it. I mean, if you want to check it out, feel free. But understand that those who give answers to the questions on the Catholicism forum may not, in fact, be qualified to give those answers. And generally, from what I read, many are not. So they may not be correct answers. So keep that in mind. But here we have an interesting question here. Refusal of baptism. My dad told me that he was struggling to find a priest in New York who was willing to baptize me as an infant. The reason he was told that was because my parents did not get married in the church, but ultimately he ended up finding a priest who was more than happy to baptize me. Is that really the case, that a child should be baptized only if the parents had a sacramental marriage inside the church? And maybe I should add, sacramental is spelled incorrectly, but we'll go from there. Okay. This is an interesting question, and the answer that the person asks, is it really the case that a child should be baptized only if the parents had a sacramental marriage inside of the church? No, that is not the case. The requirement to have your child baptized is that you're willing to have the child brought up Catholic. And other than that, that is the requirement. There are priests that may choose to refuse to baptize your child. That happens. But as a rule, and usually what happens is, like, say, for example, I'm not going to do this, but say, for example, someone were to come and say, well, I'd like to have my child baptized. Why? And they tell me that they believe in baptism and everything else, but will say that they weren't married in the church. And I say no. Maybe relatively soon after that, I may get a phone call from the local Episcopal vicar or bishop, and they'll say, baptize the child. I've had that happen a few times. And I will be following rules, but what I'll be doing is one of the rules that is if someone is having their child, they want their child baptized. This is an actual case that happened, and they were living in New Hampshire. Well, technically you're supposed to get a letter from the pastor of the parish. And one of the reasons why you want to do that is make sure that the family has a connection to the pastor. That's all, that he knows that they're even in the community, and especially when you're talking about someone from another state. And I did receive a phone call from the bishop's office, baptize the child. So that is not a rule, what the person said, that you can't baptize the child if the parents haven't had a sacramental marriage. No. But some priest may be strict on that, and they may get a phone call from the bishop who says, no, you'll baptize the child. The one time that I will refuse a baptism, and it has happened, I've written it in one of my books, is if the parents want to baptize the child but have no interest in bringing the child up Catholic. And usually the case is, my grandfather is sick, and we feel he will feel better if we baptize the child because he'd like the child baptized. And I say, well, are you Catholic? Well, no, we were Catholic, but we don't go to church anymore. We don't want anything to do with the Catholic Church. We call ourselves cultural Catholics, but we want the child baptized. In that case, there's no faith there. There's nothing there. They don't even want to bring the child up Catholic. In that case, I will say no. And that's very rare, but it has happened. And that's because it's, to them, it's just, it's not even, there's no meaning to it. It's just, yeah, we want to do this because it'll make him feel happy. But other than that, we could care less. No, not in that case at all. We're going to talk more tomorrow, but in the meantime, have yourself a blessed day. I want to call your attention to Catholic TV, which offers great faith-filled, family-friendly programming 24 hours a day. You can find your cable channel at www.getcatholictv.com, and you can watch online on the free apps or check out the YouTube channel. Daily Mass, Rosaries, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and the Our Lady of Perpetual Help Novena are all available online and on demand. Check out CatholicTV.com. If you're searching for a meaningful spiritual experience, look no further than St. Anthony's Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. Join us at 43 Holton Street in between Soldiers Field Road and the Mass Pike. Immerse yourself in the complete St. Anthony's Parish encounter through our 10 o'clock a.m. chanted Mass. Whether you're a Catholic seeking a parish to call home or someone looking for spiritual guidance, our welcoming community is here for you. Visit our website at www.stanthonyalston.org for more information. St. Anthony's Parish, where faith finds a home.